Hello folks, welcome to my workshop. Today we've got a bit of a challenge on our hands. One of the most popular alternators we do, or Stator assemblies, is for the little Honda CG125 Brazilian model. Seems to be quite a popular little Stator that we do. But as I said, we've got a bit of a challenge on. Somebody sent us this one, and it's a little bit wrecked. Looks like the flywheels come loose, or the back plates come loose, and it's taken out of a whack from something. You can see the flywheel's been rubbing on the back. The back plate's broken, and also it's got a broken off bolt just there where the other side of the coil mounts on. Fortunately, I've got the other little bit of metal that goes in there that makes up the rest of the stator. So it looks like we've got a bit of a challenge on there. I think we can do something with it. The coils melted all the insulation, the plastic insulation. It's all breaking off, but I reckon we can do something with that. Obviously it needs rewiring. So I don't know what's happened to it. Like I say, it looks like it's come loose. But what I'll do is I'll strip it all down, as I usually do. Stick it in the, clean it up, stick it in the bead blaster, polish all the edges up, and then see if we can attempt to weld it back together. This is not the best of aluminium to stick together, but we can give it a go anyway and see how it comes together. Right, so let's get down in the workshop. It's snowing out at the moment. I don't fancy going down there, but needs must. The customer's waiting for bits, so better get on the case with it. Right, see you down in the cold workshop. Right, okay, down in the cold workshop. Right, so these wires are busted off, so I'll get a pair of side cutters and cut the bloody thing clean off, get it out of the way. Worry about the wiring on it later on. Right, like I said, that bolt there is broken off, but what I'll do is I'll probably weld it all up first. Obviously line it all up and tack it all together. The reason why I'm doing that rather than get it out first is because by welding it you'll end up putting a load of heat in it, which might assist loosening that up anyway. But we'll worry about that in a minute. But we've got to try and see if we can get that bolt out of there so he looks like he's pretty seized in there. Rather than getting a flip screwdriver, I find that getting a pair of pipe grips on the bolt is usually easier and get a bit more leverage on it. Famous last words, but we'll see. Yep, there we go. It's a lot easier if you can get a pair of pipe grips on it. Get a screwdriver now. So if that one's come undone easy enough, hopefully the other one will be pretty much the same. Right, so there's a mullered coil. And there's our two bits of aluminium, which that I guess goes in. I know it does, goes in there. Got my bloody hands in the way now. And that one go on there. Luckily the mounting points are still in where it mounts onto the engine, are all still in the correct position, and they've been bolted off, so those two important. Obviously our other important point is to get that hole there and that hole there in the correct position to mount this coil back on in the right place. One, because obviously you want to get the coil to get the spacings on the threaded holes correct, and plus you don't want it out anything, otherwise you end up fouling the flywheel. So yeah, so there we can get all that crap off of there. Can't remember which wire it comes in on now. Comes out on, sorry. It comes out on that one. You can get a that's another layer under there. Let's get rid of this top layer. Can't remember how many turns is on this one now. That was about 300 altogether, but it's a weird coil because it's the actual that's the ignition coil, the one for the points, sparks basically, but it actually loops through around into the lighting coil, where one wire comes up to the points and the other one comes out and goes into this lighting coil. I don't know why that is. It probably gives it a little bit more power for something or other for the ignition, I guess. I think you might be just like get away with it if you want to just run ignition on your old CG. You might just probably get away with just that one. I don't know. But anyway, let's unwind the bloody thing. Yeah, see, these have got kind of a plastic insulation on there. I mean, that's all melted away, so I'll have to make some out of some I don't know, the stuff similar stuff they use for circuit boards, without obviously the copper backing on it. I've got some I can make up an insulation outer for it. Right, so that's all the bloody wire off of it. Now what I'll do is I'll clean that up, wire brush it, and I'll stick it in the bead blaster, get all that muck up and polish it up a bit. Anyway, that's that coil disc unwound. Right, so I've got the coils off it. That was the lighting one. Got all the crud off of it. I'll stick it in the bead blaster in a moment. There's the back plate, and what's left of it. That's got to be stuck back on there. Luckily that doesn't look like anything's bent, it's just broke, which is good. So I'll probably put that one on first excuse me, and then I'll put that one on afterwards. It's going to be quite delicate to do because, like I said, this bloody aluminium's crap stuff, and it will probably just fall to pieces when I go to weld it, but we'll give it a go anyway. I mean, that really doesn't have to be there, that piece. We'll probably just get away with that on there, as long as that's welded in place. You've got those two points for the core to sit on anyway, but we'll give it a go, as long as nothing fouls at the back. Before I put it in the bead blaster to clean it up, I thought I'd have a go at getting this little bolt out, or at least what I've done is I might be able to see it. I've managed to drill a hole right through the centre of it. I drilled it from the back in that direction, hoping it might screw itself out, but it didn't. Not a problem, at least we've got the hole in the middle anyway. With a bit of luck, get a bit of heat on it. I might try something else before I do that. It might come out. and see if we can get it out before I go any further with it. Yeah, so what I'm just trying to attempt to do is a little trick. You might end up wrecking something, but I've got a little Torx insert bit here that I've just tapped into the hole just gently so you don't wreck the end of it, and just it's gripped on there nicely. We'll just see if it comes undone. Let's see if I can get a hand wrench to fit on it. Feels like it is actually turning. Get it out far enough to be able to get the... Yeah, he's coming out. I didn't want to go the other way with it because obviously the thread, you know, the bolt's broken off, so there might be a bit of a mullered thread on it, and I didn't want to go the other way with it because it'd be more difficult to get out. This side is fresh, so yeah, I don't know whether you can see it. She's sorry if I ain't getting the thing on camera very well. Yeah, she looks like she's coming out. God, look at that, happy days. So yeah, just a Torx fitting. I mean, these are as cheap as chips anyway, so it's probably worth wrecking one of those if you have to. So, result. Right, here we got the parts, fresh out of the bead blaster, all nice and cleaned up, or kind of anyway. I left the bolts in there so I didn't want to muller the threads, because sometimes the old beads can pepper the threads a little bit. Yeah, that's the coil, and that's the other bit, and that's the other bit. Right, I've got to go and do some paperwork now, so I'll crack on with that on Monday, I think. Actually, I've decided to crack on with the welding of it, mainly because it's clean, and I thought, well, might as well get that job out of the way. So I V'd off the edges the best I can with this. You don't take too much away, otherwise you'll end up losing the locating parts, but there should be just enough V on there to get a weld in there. So what I'm going to do is mount the coil on, or the coil core on it, to see if I can get it in the right position to start with. Get it in there. What I'll do is I'll weld this one on first, or at least tack it in place, I don't know, see how it goes. Before I fanny around with the rest of it. Just pinch that up a little bit. Get that kind of lined up. Beep beep beep. Oh, a pain in the ass, this is. So I might just turn that coil round. A bit of a burr on it. And upside down. It's pretty symmetrical. Well, it is symmetrical, this core, so it doesn't really matter which way it goes. Of course, until you wind it. It might be just twisted slightly. Come on, get on there. That looks a little bit better. Remember, I was had a bit of a bash, so it might be a bit distorted. But yeah, that does seem to fit a bit better. Just keep it slack. Get it. Like I said, as long as these two bolts are in the right place, I don't think you're going to go far wrong. Still, CG125 is not a bloody MotoGP bike. Push that into position. Tighten that sod up. Don't look a million miles out. Looks relatively flat. What I might do is just put a plate behind it and just clamp it so it's in position. Don't want to put too much tension on it. Right, well, I've kind of stitched it all back together the best I can at the moment. It just needs a bit of cleaning up. Done a bit of filing work on there. I just finished that off, but it's pretty solid. It's good enough to hold that coil on there. I couldn't get right into the right end at the corner there. I just didn't want to distort this back edge where it sits on the crankcase with this O-ring and all that, but it's got the main points for fixing the plate onto the engine, and these line up quite well now. There's nothing distorted on that, which is good news. Screws are a bit dry, but yeah, they do it nicely. Trouble, you've got to put a lot of heat into it, and there's lots of hollow sections, and it ends up drooping if you're not careful. So yeah, at least it's back together. I'll clean it up a bit better than that, but it's not the best of aluminium, but a weld. But back together. I have to crack on with the coil later then. Okay, so we've welded that up. Just needs a bit more cleaning up to the tapered edges on the screw holes, but it's all square. It just needs a bit more cleaning up on that. Anyway, so I've got some of this I don't know, it's fiberglass insulating sheeting. I think it's about 1 mil thick, and I've cut it into segments to go around the edge to insulate the coil. Cleaned it up and glued it in place. So I'm just going to clean the edges off, square it all up, because it doesn't quite fit on it just hits on the back of the plate, so get it to fit the size, and then I'll start winding it all up. Right, put it on the belt linisher and just cleaned up the edges of it. Got to make sure that when the flow wheel comes around, it doesn't foul that edge there, but it's relatively close to the dimensions of that one. Actually, that way around. So yeah, stick some wire on it now. Okay, here we are. I've wound the coil. It's quite a complicated little coil actually. It's actually a combined ignition and lighting coil. So anyway, you start on this wire here, which is the ground wire, which is anchored on a ground point at the top on the bolt. You then wind it 80 turns. Basically you expect 50 turns to the end and about another 30, 3/4 of the way back, and then what you do is you then loop a wire out. It comes out and then it goes back, and then you continue the winding with this wire here where it loops out with the, so basically you'll have 2 wires on it. That would be going to the ignition coil, so that will be looping onto there. The other side of the ignition coil goes to the points, that one there. out to the ignition high tension coil. So yeah, when you've looped it back and you continue the winding, you then put another 120 turns on it, which then you end up being around about halfway back along again, and then you loop out again in the center. This is the top, this is the bottom, and then you will loop back out again, and then you go back in there again from 120 turns, and then obviously you'll have another loop of 2 wires on here. That one will go to the white wire, and then you continue on winding and back again for about another 110 turns, or basically just to get to the end of the coil there, and then you'll have the single wire coming out. So and that one ends up going to the yellow wire on the output cables of your stator. So yeah, it's in on the ground, turns 80 turns, and it comes out on this one, which is to your ignition coil. Then you give it another 120 turns, and it comes out, loops out on this one, which goes to your white wire, and then you continue on winding. Sorry, that's the white wire, and you continue on winding for about another 110 turns, and it comes out, finally finishes on the yellow wire. So yeah, and there we've got to mount it on the plate, so it mounts on like that. So what I'll do is I'll cut the old securing strip off, put a bit of super glue, hold it in place, and then I'll cover it in a bit of insulating material just to protect it and hold all the wires together. But it's come out not too bad, not perfect, but it's come out not too bad considering it's you know, it's all knocked up together out of bits and pieces. But just do a continuity check between there and there. You shouldn't have any breaks, but make sure you haven't got any continuity between that wire or that wire, because they're all looped together to ground, because if it's grounding out it won't work. But this is the main coil that generally causes problems for your ignition, even though it's a lighting coil, because it's actually looped into the ignition, one of the main ignition coil. This one very rarely gives any problems, although I'll rewind that one anyway. Okay, I had a couple of hours spare last night, so I decided to rewind the main ignition coil, which is this one. I've got another plate over here, that one there. Mounts on the top of that coil, on that top of the back plate, or the bottom if you want it upside down. So yeah, that's the main ignition one. As I said, this wire here joins onto this one, which loops out on the double wire on this lighting ignition coil, and then the other end goes around to your points, and then off up to your high tension coil. So to wind this one, you start on here where it joins onto this wire, it joins onto that wire there. Start on there, 412 turns, come out, back and forth, 412 turns, about 0.53 wire, something like that, if I remember right. And then it comes out, and then that end goes up to the points. So yeah, that one and that one have been rewound now. All we got to do now is join the wires up, bolt it all back together, and yeah, Bob's your uncle, and clean up the back plate as well. And then I wrapped it in a kind of a cloth. I don't know what material it is actually, but wrapped it up to keep it tight, and also encapsulated it in a resin just to keep it all bonded together. Welcome back to the office. Okay, the workshop's not as bad as it was the other day, but still a bit nippy out there. And I need some food, I'm getting hungry, and a cup of tea. Right, stator's finished. All bolted back together. Looks like it's all reasonably flat. All the bolt holes should line up. Welded up, I've dressed it up a little bit, cleaned that up, but it's all pretty solid. Yeah, Obviously that was the coil that was all butchered to start with, fitted on there quite nicely. Yeah, wired up to the points and put some new wires on the end of it, new connectors, bullet connectors, male and three females and one for the points, which is the black, and the two charging and lights are the yellow and the white, and then there's the neutral light switch, which is the blue wire. Should be green, but I ran out of green wire, and I've just left that wire bare at the end of it, so the customer can just cut it to length and then just hook it onto the switch. I think it's only a sprung loaded thing. Just put a bit of solder on the end to stop the ends from fraying. So yeah, as I said, we rewound that one. We went through that and rewound the main ignition coil, which I said loops into the lighting coil. As I said, it's generally the lighting coil that goes on it that causes the ignition to fail. Yeah, hopefully he'll have to adjust the points when he gets it back. But yeah, a lot of hard work. I don't like to see these things chucked away. I don't know, maybe I should have told him to get a second hand one or something, maybe with just a coil gone on it, but hey ho. Job sorted. So I'll post that back out. The customer, I probably won't take on another one like that for the price I did it for, but I set myself a challenge and we sorted it out. As I've said, I don't like chucking stuff away, reuse it, whatever. Thanks for watching the video anyway, I appreciate that. Take a look at our website, www.bbikeshop.co.uk. You'll see on there we do a lot of alternators and stuff for other bikes. Like I said earlier, this is probably one of the most popular ones we do at the moment, this time of year. The ones for the bigger bikes generally come in when the summer months, when people are riding them around. People don't tend to ride the big bikes around, but these are, funny enough, are still being used. Great little bike, CG125. Shame that they don't still make that type of bike now, really. Little push rod 125. What else more can I say, really? I hope you've learned something from it. What else can I say? Enjoy the day. Thanks for watching.